My name's Chris. I play drums in a band called The Heavy. We're from Bath, and yeah, you should check us out. With regards to influences, I mean, The Heavy is a massive melting pot, and everybody has, you know, different influences, but we all listen to the same stuff. But I personally was brought up with my mum loving ska and reggae and stuff like that, and soul. And then my dad was much more into rock, so like much more classic stuff and the blues and things. So there was a lot of that about, and yeah, I was pretty much brought up on that. And then I discovered mods when I was about 14, and that sort of changed my life a little bit. I got into that big time, and that's probably one of my main influences. And then from there, punk, etc. And you know, but yeah, like listen to a lot of different music. Yeah, very much schizophrenic. So I think we've always wanted to do make something old but make it sound new, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So we always wanted to take old stuff that we loved, like, you know, whether it was the Shangri-Las or like the Ronettes or whatever, and put, you know, with what Kelv's sort of background is, you know, more hip hop and soul, you know, and apply the hip hop element to that, and that's how it started out really. But I mean, yeah, we just you know, make music that we love really, and that's where we go from, and we always try and set the bar quite high, so we don't, you know, like, we're pretty fussy, we're pretty self-critical, we don't put out anything if it's not a, you know, a really solid song, then you're not gonna hear it basically. That's a bit of a tough question, but yeah, I mean, obviously the recording style from the 60s and 70s and, you know, 50s as well for that matter, is a massive part of what we do. You know, we use, like, we're very simple the way we record, you know, we pretty much try and imitate that, the sound of the, you know, the 50s and the 60s, and bring it up to date. And yeah, it's a huge part of our sound and what we do, you know. So yeah, I think it would be very difficult for us to be who we are without that influence. Oh, I think that we've got an unusual blend. I think, you know, like, whilst we love soul and stuff, we don't, you know, we're very aware of the fact that soul can become either very pastiche or really, really cheesy and horrible, you know. So we try and make everything dirty as possible, and, you know, like loud guitars and loud drums and boisterous, you know. And I think that's a key element to what we do, and that's what, you know, forges what we do. I think I've never really thought about how many musicians or great musicians have come from the UK to the US, really. I mean, it's all sort of just happened for us, if you know what I mean. We're not on a major label, there's been no push. It just so happened that America and Canada, you know, seemed to take to what we do, and so it's just been a natural progression really. And then obviously when we did Letterman, that sort of turned things around a little bit for us. But yeah, I mean, obviously it is, you know, there's you know, we're thinking about the Stones and, you know, the Beatles and blah blah blah, big bands like that. Yeah, it is a lot of pressure. Thanks for bringing that up. I don't know where it comes from, but I think there's a lot of knock-on influence between like America and the UK. You know, like, it feels like, you know, you guys had the blues and we took it and did something slightly different with it, and then brought it back here, and then something slightly different happened to that and it went back, and you know what I mean. It's like a whole constantly, like, almost like a battle, do you know what I mean, a one-upmanship sort of thing. And obviously our language seems to be, you know, I don't know why, but the English language seems to translate beautifully for most music, you know, so I guess we were just lucky. Our third record, The Glorious Dead, was, you know, we started it and we didn't really have a direction as such. We had songs together, and then after a couple of months, it sort of started to take shape. We obviously record everything ourselves, and we're not produced, so. But after a few months, it sort of took shape, and we wanted to do something, like a bit with that New Orleans vibe, a bit like Live and Let Die, or like something, sort of soundtrack-esque, but with that New Orleans sort of, band procession type thing. And it just sort of grew out of that, really. And I suppose almost each record does have some kind of thread with it, like we say, like working towards it sounding like a soundtrack, like Great Vengeance and Furious Fire. I can't even remember the names of our records. I'm so terrible with names, I'm sorry. That's got obviously a very like Quentin Tarantino vibe to it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, they're sort of each their own thing, but yeah, they we imagine there being like a sort of film to each one. Yeah, I think initially we were trying to do, or we've always tried to do something that was very particular, and when we've tried to work with other people, it feels like they haven't quite got it. They either try and make it too safe, or so by recording it ourselves, we felt like we were able to establish 80% of the sound, and that nobody would be able to change it too much, sort of thing. So and the first record obviously was absolutely like DIY. That was pretty much Dan and Curve put that together, and and then we just get people in to mix it, because that's the element that we're not too sort of comfortable with doing ourselves. So yeah, pretty much just to retain control over everything you do. Very different worlds. Yeah, I mean, with regards to the the NFL draft, that was a bit of a weird one. That was a bit of a weird request, and working with 50 Cent was unusual. I thought it sounded pretty good, but yeah, it's a strange thing. It's not something that I would have ever have imagined us doing, to be quite honest, but it seemed to work, maybe. No, it's sort of like, they took the stems of one of our tunes and created a hole for him to take a verse on it, basically. So, and then obviously we filmed the advert with him. So yeah. What stands out the most for me? I mean, obviously it's got to be the Letterman performances, for me. And obviously there were different things in the early days, like the first time, within the first, I think, month of us getting signed on our first proper tour, we played in France to 6,000 people. That was a bit of a shock, but yeah, definitely Letterman would be the highlight. The first time round, I knew of David Letterman, but I didn't realize it was a big deal, and then the second time round, I knew it was a big deal. I knew what we'd done by getting an encore and stuff, so I was absolutely crapping my pants. So yeah, so that was a really amazing experience for me. We're hoping to get back together and sort of start writing in late September, and then we should hopefully be recording maybe the end of the year, early next year, and try and get a record out as soon as possible, really. So yeah, it should be, I guess, like maybe in a year's time there'll be another record, hopefully September next year. God, what do I think life is? That is a pretty far out question. I don't really know. I obviously think about it a lot. I suppose the only thing I do know is you've got to live in the moment and make the most of that, but I've got no idea what life is. It feels so abstract to me sometimes, like I could just look around me and just be like, what the fuck, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing in America, and what does this all mean? Does, and especially when people are impressed by what we've done or whatever, and it doesn't really mean anything to me. It's like, it's brilliant, and I mean it does mean something. But like I say, when you ask me about what have been the greatest moments of my career, like, well, Letterman's great, and it's great for that 5 minutes, but afterwards you walk out and like it's back to like you're just wandering the street and you're nobody, and you've got to top that again, sort of thing, so it's, I don't know, I know I'm rambling, but it's yeah, for me it's very abstract, and and nothing is as it seems, I suppose, and nothing, never get too full of yourself, and try and be humble and try and help people, and that's the best thing you can do, I imagine.